According to insider Jeff Snyder, Marvel will reportedly change Silver Surfer to be a woman in the Fantastic Four reboot. If this is indeed what they're doing with the Silver Surfer, and this rumor turns out to be true, the comic book community, the comic book fans, the majority of them are not going to be happy. And the last thing that Marvel Studios needs right now is to piss off a massive chunk of their loyal fan base.
Marvel's female fan base is 47%, which means that this whole argument that most comic book fans are male is a lie. Nearly half of Marvel fans specifically are women. Everyone's been assuming that these types of genre of films need to be overwhelmingly male represented because that's the fan base. And it's just not true, especially with Marvel. When Ms. Marvel debuted on Disney Plus, it was the most popular MCU series to date with the 20 to 24 demographic, Gen Z, particularly in Black, Hispanic, and Asian households. I wonder why that is. Now, the audience for the Marvels is a little older because it's theorized that young people tend to like to stream their content. And with the cost of living and inflation, movie tickets are expensive. A lot of young people are just going to wait the 12 weeks or 3 months or 6 months or whatever for the thing to be available on the streaming service that they are already paying for. While the largest demographic of people that saw the Marvels was between the ages of 25 and 34, 58% of the overall audience identified as non-white, particularly Latino, Hispanic, Black, or Asian. So if nearly half the Marvel fan base is women, why are we worried that they're making a female Silver Surfer? Not to mention the fact that in one of the original comics, there was a female Silver Surfer. Not to mention the fact that we are now entering the multiverse in Marvel. We're actually halfway through the multiverse saga, where literally anything can happen. Anybody can be anybody. Anybody can be any race, any gender, any alien being. It does not matter. All bets are off. With the exception of Barbie, movies in general haven't been doing that well at the box office because people just haven't been going to the movies that much. We got used to being in our homes watching things. I know I did. I saw the Marvels in theaters just because I pick, a couple of movies to see in theaters. Everything else, I wait for streaming. But because the 2 movies I saw in theaters this year were female-led movies, I try to go to make sure their box office numbers reflect that because I know that that's what these vehicles are going to be judged by. And if these female-led vehicles don't make money, then it's going to be years before they will let another woman lead a film in that particular genre, or write one or direct one. Because while it is assumed that women can identify with male characters and that Black people can identify with white characters and so on and so forth, it is not assumed that men can identify with women characters. Which I don't get why a superhero is a superhero. And I've been watching and enjoying films that feature primarily white men for most of my life. And I've managed to enjoy them just fine. Marvel tends to do better when they stick to the comic stories. If they stray too far from the comic books, that's where they get in trouble. And these so-called go woke storylines are pulled directly from the comic books. In the comics, Falcon eventually becomes Captain America at some point. In the comics, there is a female Silver Surfer. Kamala Khan, a young South Asian Muslim woman, is in a version of the comics. All these people exist already in the source material. We didn't just make them up so we could, be woke. The one demographic fact that runs through most Marvel fans, particularly MCU fans, is that they are primarily millennials. You know what's happening to millennials now? They're getting old. I'm a young Gen Xer or Xseal. The oldest millennial is only 4 years younger than me. I'm 46. The oldest millennials are in their 40s, the elder millennials. Most of the data I cited came from the Salon piece, which I agree with. The MCU fan base is aging. I don't think that the Marvels didn't do well at the box office because it was a female-led film. First of all, it was a sequel to a movie that came out a long time ago. So there wasn't a lot of momentum going into it because the first Captain Marvel film came out in 2018, 2019? And like this article said, when the MCU was in a totally different phase. Secondly, they weren't really able to promote the film properly because of the SAG strike. So they were only allowed to go on talk shows and talk about it like 1 or 2 days before the film actually opened. Some interviews took place after the film had already opened. And I also think maybe we might just have MCU fatigue at this point as a culture. Some people are like, yeah, I need a break from all this superhero crap. And a lot of people weren't really into the streaming shows. I personally liked all of them, but, not everybody feels like me. But this whole, go woke, go broke argument does not fly as far as I'm concerned. The data just doesn't back that up. The Spider-Verse films did amazing at the box office, and those characters were very diverse. I just think that younger people, which would have made up a big chunk of the box office receipts, just don't go to the movies as much as older people do. Like I said, they wait for things on streaming services that they're already paying for. And in case you haven't noticed, young people are broke. They don't have anywhere from $13 to $22 for a single theater ticket. I agree with Melanie McFarlane, the writer of this Salon piece, that Marvel is struggling to figure out how to transition the MCU properties when you have an aging fan base. And they're kind of in the middle when like the millennials are getting older, kind of losing interest, and then Gen Z is coming in to form a larger and larger part of their customer base. Basically, every company, no matter what you sell, whether you're in entertainment or you're a retailer, everybody is struggling with this problem. How many articles have you seen coming out saying like, young people aren't buying as many diamonds or they're not drinking as much? The consumer habits of young people are very different from the consumer habits of middle-aged and older people. They're a very different generation. And while Ms. Marvel had a very big audience of people in their early 20s, it was the least watched series overall. I don't think having female superheroes or having female-led superhero movies is what really affects box office sales. Or streaming, for that matter. I just think that Marvel had a honeymoon period where they had everybody interested in their stuff. Like phase 3, you had younger people, you had older people, you had middle-aged people. There were a lot of people interested in Marvel content. But that age demographic has shifted a little bit, and they haven't figured out how to get both age groups in the theater for the opening weekend and both age groups to be equally interested in their streaming content. And this is a company that's really used to hitting everything out of the park every time and having success after success, boom, boom, boom. And that's not happening anymore. But I think it was unrealistic that that was ever going to last forever. One thing I am sure of, though, it has nothing to do with casting women in the movies.